Reddick, you suck! It's all your fault, you pieces. Oh, that feels so good. That feels good because it's a wild win against the Nashville Predators. And also, don't complain that I have a jersey. Okay, it was a gift from a friend. But anyway, wild win. We finally get a win against Nashville. We had lost 10 of our last 11. We had lost our last 5 games in that building. This is our last road game of the year, and we managed to pull off an incredible win. Absolutely huge, especially going into the playoffs and losing Jared Spurgeon in the process. Hopefully it's not very long term, but oh my goodness, did you see the reaction from the bench? It was one of those games again where Everson is getting up and he's punching everybody on the bench because he knows how big of a win that was. He knows how big of a win that was. We all do. We all know how big of a win it was. Screw you. God. I gotta hang that up at some point. But still, oh my God, this game was nuts. This game was ridiculous. Absolutely absurd to watch. And it didn't seem like that in the beginning because it was frankly a bizarre second period that just completely flipped this game on its head. Okay? This was just nuts. So, the goalies in net tonight were Marc-Andre Fleury versus David Riddick. So we weren't facing UC Soros, and that's whatever Predators fan come across is like, yeah, you weren't facing our best goalie, we had to go easy on blah, blah, blah. Shut up! Okay? We finally win. And you guys are fighting for your playoff lives right now. We needed that win, okay? You'll get in. You will be fine, okay? Thank you for giving us these points, okay? Because then we will not see you. You're not getting past Calgary. Yeah, you're not getting past Calgary. I'm willing not to put money on that, but I'm willing to, if I were a betting man, maybe I would, but I'm not. But anyway, it was Fleury versus Riddick tonight, and Fleury's only loss in a wild sweater was against these guys in their building. It was I believe it was the 6-2 blowout that we had on ESPN Plus, it was ESPN broadcast, so it didn't look good. And frankly, Nashville was the only team that we really had trouble against since March 8th. There was a specific stat line, which I think might be on the back of this page, that showed just how much of a boogeyman this team had been to us. Like, it was just nuts how much we had dominated other teams. We had, like, since March 8th, if I can find the stat, because I know I wrote it down here somewhere, but it was just absurd. Because these guys are like the main outlier in that entire stat line. Like, they always seem to just find a way to sneak out. Here we go. Minnesota since March 8th. We were 18-0-4 against anybody who wasn't Nashville. Against Nashville, 0-2-0. Literally. I'm not even kidding. We played St. Louis in this time. Both those games went to overtime. None of them were regulation wins. They were OT losses. 18-0-4 against all other opponents. Our only 2 regulation losses since March 8th were against Nashville. A building that it seemed like we couldn't win in. And yet we got a good chunk of our players from Nashville. Dean Evison used to be the coach of the Milwaukee Admirals in the Predators system. Kevin Fiala, former Predators player, traded with Mikael Granlund. They swapped places. They're still on the teams. Granlund is still with the Preds and Fiala's still with us. And he should be for a long time because we should re-sign him. But that's a problem to deal with after the season ends. If he hasn't improved enough at this point, then I don't know what else he's going to. I don't know what else he's going to do. Honestly, re-sign him, please. All of Minnesota wants you to re-sign him because basically that's the one thing that still hasn't happened. But I guarantee it will. Or at least I feel like Bill Guerin won't screw it up. He's done everything great so far. Please continue to be incredible, please. Oh my God, this is just... I'm like literally a feeling of euphoria rushed over me as soon as that happened. I almost lost my voice screaming after that happened. I tried not to scream too much during the game so I could save my voice for talking afterwards. Soon as that happened, oh my God, you could probably hear me all the way up from A Mountain. I'm willing to bet, because it was just jubilation. It was excitement. It was everything. So, it was Fleury and Riddick tonight, and Zuccarello was also out tonight because he sustained an injury late in the third period against Seattle in the last game that we had. I don't think it's anything too serious either, but just as a precaution and just to make sure that he's still good, we had to call somebody up. So, Bukestad now takes Zuccarello's spot on the first line with Hartman and Kaprizov, and then we keep together that dominant line of Gaudreau, Boldy, and Fiala. Okay, so we got one solid line. Then the remnants of the grief line, because Foligno's still out with COVID protocol. Dumba and Greenway did skate with the team during their morning skate, but still didn't practice. So, who do we put in there? That third line now becomes Eriksson Ek centering Connor Dewar and Joseph Camarosa from Iowa. We called it Mitchell Chafee earlier. Now it's Camarosa, and I'm not sure if it was his NHL debut, but we called him up regardless. It seemed like he played pretty well. I mean, he did get a penalty early on, which kind of sucked. But Nashville didn't score on that penalty, so, it's something. But yeah, so that's the weird grief line. And then the fourth line ends up becoming, it's Duhaime. I think it's Duhaime, Jost, and Delorier. So that's our those are our lines. And it seemed as though our defense was finally getting back to almost healthy without Dumba. Because it was Spurgeon and Merrill. It was Brodin, let's see. Middleton, Spurgeon, Merrill, Kulikov, Goligoski, and Brodin. I think I got 6. Anyway, we get into this game, and already it's becoming increasingly obvious it's going to be another game like Nashville loves to play. A game where they love to get physical, they love to push people around, and that's how they play. That's just the way they do it. So they keep rolling as best they can. And that is probably what they're playing playoff style hockey right now, because essentially their playoffs start now because they still haven't clinched. So a lot of early physical play. Nothing too crazy though, like most divisional matchups where they get chaotic. Nothing crazy happened really in the first period, so we were still doing fine. At 16:45, Luke Cunning gets a holding penalty, but Minnesota doesn't capitalize on it. 12:36, Fleury is able to make a couple good saves. So, again, still pretty even back and forth. More physical game than it was against like Seattle, but it's still deadlocked, 0-0. Then at 10:12, Ekholm takes a delay of game penalty in something that I honestly thought he got it tipped. Apparently it didn't touch anything, and he just lets it fly into the crowd. So it passes over the glass, and now we're back on the power play again. To which Nick Bukestad throws it on net. There's a mad dash right in the front, just trying for somebody to push it in. And it looks like Nashville scored on themselves because Mark Borowiecki had the closest stick there, and he taps it in as it's just scrambling in the crease. Bukestad gets credit with the power play goal, his 7th of the season, 8:55 left to go. No assists, but technically it's Borowiecki's assist, so, thank you for that one. And we're up 1-0, just like that. So Nashville is kind of stunned, but also at the same time they're like, what? Really? That's the goal we give it? Because Riddick did not look comfortable in this. UC Saros probably would have made this maybe a hell of a lot closer, that's for sure. Maybe a definite win, possibly. But Riddick did not look good at all in this game. He looked very shaky, and that goal proves it because that was a juicy rebound that managed to go in. And then Duhaime ends up getting an interference penalty. Not the right time for that, especially against one of the better power plays in the league, but they were able to kill it off. And then on that same play, as soon as they called Duhaime for the interference penalty, Spurgeon goes into the boards pretty awkwardly after a hit from Philip Forsberg. And he ends up grimacing, and he left the game after that happened. So that's not good. Our captain is gone again. And so now the Wild have to play with 5 defensemen in a building where they haven't won their last 5 games against a team where we haven't won at all this season. And we only have 5 defensemen. So already, some of the anxiety is starting to kick in and more stuff happens like that. But I will say, that anxiety cooled away with Connor Dewar, who hustled his ass off so much so that he ended up nearly beating Roman Josi on a shorthanded opportunity. So he looked good out there. I'm not saying Roman Josi looked bad. It's more or less he got shut down by Minnesota. He did not have a good game. He did not have a stellar performance Roman Josi type of game. He had like a normal NHLer type of game. That's the bar for Roman Josi because he's still good, but a normal game for him is like 1 point, and that's pretty much what he got here. He was sitting at like -1 for a good chunk of time in this game. Then at 2:33, Camarosa takes a roughing penalty, and it's basically a penalty where it evolves from a scrum, basically. So puck is covered, and then all of a sudden there's more pushing and shoving, and it seems like both guys get into it, but they only take one, and they take Camarosa in his first NHL game. Luckily, like I said, Nashville doesn't convert on that either. Basically because Freddie Gaudreau and Kevin Fiala are incredible on the penalty kill. Like, those two won't let anything get into the zone, and it's allowed our penalty kill to be much more confident. But to add insult to injury, well, frankly, this just sucks regardless. Philip Forsberg gets his 40th of the season with only 3 seconds left in the first period. Assisted by Fabro and Granlund. Great. Basically, Granlund tries to saucer this one into the net. It ends up accidentally bouncing off of Fabro's skate, hits the post, and then all Forsberg has to do is just tap it in. It's literally the easiest goal he's scored all season. And that's his 40th. And just like that, the Nashville crowd gets back into it. And to give up one right before the first period is just, it stings. It sucks. But luckily, again, period ends. So now, things will change. Either Nashville's going to come out flying, or Minnesota's going to group down defensively. Something is going to truly, decide this second period. Or so we thought. Shots, by the way, in the first period were 15-9 in favor of Minnesota. Second period comes around, still no Spurgeon on the bench. But for the first 10 minutes of the game, Minnesota essentially controlled the play. Nashville had so much trouble getting it out of their zone. They did not get a shot until 10:20 left in the second period. Half of the period was in the Nashville zone or the neutral zone. That's how lopsided it seemed. Because it seemed like Minnesota was dominating. Riddick had no ideas where these pucks were. Literally, they were bouncing off of him, and he was looking away. As if he was just trying to spot a fly flying through the ice. And yet the puck is just somehow bouncing off of him wherever he goes. He looks this way, puck's over here, and it bounces off his pad. And it's not like Minnesota wasn't, getting good chances. The puck just keeps ping-ponging through all this traffic, and it still manages to get stopped by Riddick. Maybe one of those doesn't go in, one of those does, but that's puck luck, and you just gotta hope for the best. And eventually, a little bit after Kulikov ends up leveling Roman Josi when he tries to come into the Wild zone, just completely barrels him right in front of the slot, so much so that Fleury had to jump out of the way. Then, here's what I have to tell you, by the way. This is where the shit gets real. This is where all hell breaks loose, and nobody can explain what happens from this point forward. Because this second period was bizarre. Absolutely. I don't even have the word, like, let's just go to the notes, because this is just nuts. So, at 13:24, it appears that Joel Eriksson Ek has scored. Essentially, they didn't know who it was because, like the first goal, it was a mad scramble in front. Middleton ends up getting his leg taken out underneath him and pushed into David Riddick, but not so much that Riddick moves out of the net, more like he moves into the net. Middleton is sitting in front of him after getting pushed down by a Nashville defenseman. The puck somehow skims through this horde of bodies and goes to the back of the net. So, what insists after that... Oh, by the way, after that goal goes in, David Riddick decides it'd be a good idea to just shove Jake Middleton in the back. Middleton didn't do a damn thing aside from falling into him. So I guess Riddick has some part there, but it's still awful part for him to do because that gets called as a penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct, and rightfully so. Pushing a guy after the play is well over. Puck may have gone into your net. They will challenge it. Riddick knows they're going to challenge it. He knows the Nashville bench is going to challenge it. So there's no point for him to push somebody over. So already there's a penalty for them. So regardless of this goal outcome, Nashville will be down a man once this is all over. So Nashville does what Riddick wants them to. They challenge for goaltender interference, thinking that Jake Middleton accidentally shoved David Riddick and didn't allow him to play the puck. Here's the thing. A Nashville defenseman shoved Jake Middleton into David Riddick. Therefore, call still stands because your own guy pushed him into the goaltender. That sucks. Push him somewhere else then. And I always thought that rule was kind of, didn't really help the goaltenders out that much. But if you get beat like that, defensive breakdown, because the Wild were rolling in this period. If Nashville's defense had woken up, maybe they would have been able to clear him out. But regardless, call stands, and since Nashville challenged it, that also means a delay of game penalty. So now the Wild are up 2-1 and have a 5-on-3 advantage for 2 minutes. To which the Wild power play decides to shut down. They didn't really shut down, but you didn't score on a 5-on-3 for 2 minutes? You got shots on net, sure, but none of them went in. And right as soon as that happens, right as soon as the power play ends, nothing goes in for Minnesota. It's 2-1. And to add insult to injury, there's a stoppage in play literally right after the power play ends. And now the Nashville crowd is really into it. And this is kind of when the shit hit the fan for Minnesota. Nashville was getting dunked on this whole period. Now it comes the other way. And also, up to this point, it's 11:18 left to go in the second period. Shots were 14-0 in the second period in favor of the Wild. They were dominating. They were 29-9 throughout the entire game. But Minnesota doesn't convert on that 5-on-3, and now Nashville comes back the other way. Now Fleury finally makes one good save, and now here comes Nashville back the other way. 9:54, John Merrill gets a holding penalty, which then results in a power play goal for Matt Duchene. 41st of the season, 9:20 left in the second, assisted by Granlund and Forsberg. Basically, Forsberg makes an incredible play as Goligoski is trying to clear the puck up the center of the ice, which you should do on a penalty kill if you're just trying to get it out. Literally, Forsberg just whacks it down and just stops it dead on the ice, making sure that it stays in play. It stays in the zone. Then eventually it cycles around and Duchene buries a rebound, and it's now a tie game. It's now 2-2. Huge momentum shift like that. That's how crazy this game can be. You could be up 2-1 and have a 5-on-3, and then stuff like that happens. I was about to just lose it, because how in the world do you not score on a 5-on-3 for 2 minutes? For 2 minutes and you didn't score? It's absurd. 8:54 is when this stuff really starts to get wild because now the physical play has started to turn into like division rival cheapness from both sides. Both sides are hitting after the whistles, talking trash, pushing and shoving. The refs are starting to lose control of this game. 7:51 left to go in the second. A shot from the top of the slot from Nashville hits the post and bounces back into Fleury. The horn goes off, and all of a sudden, both caught LePanta is thinking, "Wait, it's in? No, it's not. It's not. Okay, thank God, it's not in. That's good because I thought it was in too, like LePanta said, because the horn goes off and it hits something. You hear the ding, but you think, okay, ding and in. That's got to be what it is." But Fleury is now laying down, covering up the puck. So it's like, okay, this game is still getting out of hand. Then at 7:18, Nick Delorier takes a cross-checking penalty. And to be honest, it was kind of a weak call because that's pretty much what they had been doing all throughout the front of the net from both sides. They still call him for it. And Nashville, again, scores. And I wrote here, this game is turning nasty at 7:18. So Nashville gets another power play goal. This time it's Ryan Johansson, his 24th of the season at 6:22 left to go in the second. Nobody got the assist on that because Granlund basically tried to bury this rebound. Forsberg ended up hitting the post, and Johansson buries it. And I guess since Forsberg hit the post, doesn't count as an assist, so Johansson gets the goal. And now it is 3-2, and that building is loud. They are letting Fleury hear it. You know the Fleury, 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 you suck. It's all your fault. Yeah, it's so obnoxious for every fan base. But I guarantee you, if I'm in a game in Nashville and they're not playing the Wild and I'm wearing a Preds jersey, that's gonna be so much fun to do. Okay, it's one of those things where, yes, it sucks if it's happening to you. But if you are a part of that, that has got to be so much fun. Has to be. Because that's one of the loudest buildings in the NHL. I guarantee it. So, they're letting Fleury here. It is 3-2. Nashville has essentially taken over this game. And I keep thinking, there's the Groundhog Day prophecy again. Every time we try something, just something stupid happens. And then, seemingly almost out of nowhere, it seems as though the tide turns again. This time in favor of Minnesota. Because Colton Sissons gets a high sticking penalty. Nothing comes off of it, though, for Minnesota, who is now 1-5 on the power play in this game, which is, at least they got one. They got one, so you got to give them something. But then Riddick is really getting frustrated because he just can't control any of these rebounds. Every shot against him is literally just sitting in the slot. He isn't able to scrunch up and cover these up. Every time he tries that, the puck just squirts free in the slot, and he has to try and whack it away. So he's just getting fed up with this now. And again, more of the chippiness gets piled in there. There's more scrums coming down after the whistle. More stuff's happening. Riddick keeps trying to push the net off of its moorings to get a stoppage in play during these power plays. So Eriksson Ek is chirping at him from the bench saying, "Hey, why the hell are you knocking the net off during the middle of play?" So the ref literally has to come over to Riddick and say, "Hey, you do that again, we will call a penalty on you because, it's illegal. You can't hit the net off to stop play again. We just can't keep doing this." So Riddick is getting frustrated, and I wrote here at 4:30, the inmates are running the prison because the refs have essentially lost control of this game, and so much stuff is happening that they just... both sides essentially hated the refs in this game because it got so chippy that the refs didn't really know who to take on certain shit and what to call. So, penalties were plentiful for both sides. They were definitely plentiful for both sides. Then at 1:55, William Carrier gets a high sticking penalty, and Minnesota goes back on the power play. This time, though, they manage to score. Eriksson Ek gets his 25th of the season, his second consecutive multi-goal game. He had 2 goals against the Kraken. He has 2 goals tonight because he got credit for that weird second one that they had. He gets this one at 1:33 left to go in the second, assisted by Fiala, his 51st of the season, and Kaprizov, his 57th of the season. Basically, an incredible play by Kaprizov to keep this puck alive for Minnesota. He dives at it, smacks it with the stick, is able to get it over to Fiala. Fiala fires across the slot, and Eriksson Ek tips it in top shelf. And just like that, we are now tied again. But no, we're still not done. Because with 22 seconds left, Kevin Fiala completely fucking embarrasses Nashville. Like, it's like wrong. It is like X-rated what he did. Like, oh my God. Like, literally, I looked at the goal and I nearly puked multiple, because it's just nasty what he did. It's disgusting, and it's against his former team, the team he used to be with. No wonder the celebration was so big. They asked him about the celebration afterwards. No wonder it is so big. Against his former team, to embarrass them like that? 22 seconds left. Assisted by Matt Boldy, his 23rd of the season. Fiala's 33rd goal of the season. Literally weaves around the entire Nashville defense, finds his way into the slot with a wicked, absolutely wicked backhand that goes top shelf on David Riddick. And just like that, with 22 seconds left in the second period, it is now 4-3 when it seemed like all the momentum was going the Predators' way. What is happening? Literally, this was the moment where I was like, what is going on? This is just nuts. And I keep forgetting there's a third period after this. What is that going to be like? Because this game just was nuts. Second period ends, and I'm still left just wondering, how did we get here? Where am I? What planet is that? What is going on? And I didn't even have an answer. I guess 2 big momentum shifts. Nashville got their big momentum shift when we failed to capitalize on the 5-on-3. I guess we got our big momentum shift when Riddick kept knocking the net off. When Carrier gets his high sticking penalty. I mean, that's pretty much it. So, just like that, in a wild second period. No pun intended, because the Wild didn't fully dominate the period. But, oh my God, I was still pacing around my room trying to figure out what just happened. But there's still a third period. There is still a third period that we have to play. So it's 4-3, Minnesota's leading. Shot department is absurd for Minnesota. Remember I shared that stat earlier? Shots at the end of the second, 37-18 in favor of the Wild. 22 shots in the second period for Minnesota. 22. And we're up 4-3. Third period comes around. Spurgeon, he's essentially done for the game at this point. I was also at the same time looking at the St. Louis-Anaheim game. St. Louis was leading Anaheim 4-2 by the time I wrote this. Shots in that game were 27-7 in favor of St. Louis. And I remember there was a stat earlier that I saw, because Anaheim led this game 2-0, and the shots were 22-4 in favor of St. Louis. That was a real moment at that game at one point. Anaheim was up 2-0 with only 4 shots on goal. And that was in the second period at that point. Then St. Louis woke up and ruined Ryan Getzlaf's last night in Anaheim. So, hate St. Louis for that. Getzlaf had a great career. Why are you going to ruin it on his last night? There's no point. But they win, and with Fiala's goal, that makes him surpass Marian Gaborik as second all-time in Wild points in a single season. He now has 84 points. 84 points. 2 people have broken the Wild franchise record for points in a single season. And there might be a third, because if Zuccarello manages to come back, he is only 3 points away. He has 79 points. Gaborik had 82. So, this team is different. The record books are going to show that this team is definitely different. But regardless, we still got the third period to play. So we get into the third period. At 16:40, Nick Deloria gets another penalty. It's a roughing penalty this time. Nashville isn't able to convert on it, though. Thank God. 13:38, Ellie Tolvanen gets a hooking penalty. Minnesota's not able to convert, so that sucks. And I believe that was the last penalty for either team. So the last power play count, both teams had 2 power play goals. Minnesota was 2 for 7. Nashville was 2 for 5. 12 penalties in this game. 12. Again, like I said, the inmates ran the prison in the second period, and that's no joke. But again, Nashville just wouldn't go away. When Minnesota was still trying to chase pucks hard, Dante Fabro manages to get his 3rd of the season, assisted by Duchesne and Roman Josi, who, by the way, that was his 70th assist. 7-0. If he doesn't win the Norris, I'm going to need an explanation why. I love Cale Makar, but Jesus Christ, Roman Josi is something else. Something else. Makar may be the new kid on the block, but the old buck's still swinging. Oh my God. And this wasn't even a bad shot for Fleury. This wasn't like getting deked out in front. This was just a deflection. Connor Dewar accidentally deflects the puck and it bounces on Fleury and it goes in. And so, with 5:40 left to go in the game, we're tied. And now pandemonium starts to set in. Well, panic, not pandemonium. Panic starts to set in as me because I am just losing my mind. I am literally just watching the game like this. I just don't know what is going to happen next, because if the second period happens in this period, I might just scream. At least that's what I was thinking at that point. But luckily, or unluckily, however you want to look at it, third period ends. Each team gets a point, and now we go into overtime, where each team is glad they got the point, but really wants that extra one. And that's where the stats showed, where Minnesota, this has been this team's boogeyman since March 8th, 0-2-0 versus Nashville, 18-0-4 versus everybody else. This is our boogeyman, and we really, really needed to win this. And it could have been horrific. Because at 3:17, a puck nearly slips through Marc-Andre Fleury. But luckily, Fiala and Goligoski are able to keep it away from the goal line and are able to get possession back. The overtime continues to go back and forth for both teams. And then, when it seemed like we were destined to go to a shootout, which, I mean, at this point, I'd rather take overtime because I know we've just been nuts in overtime this year. When it seems like all hope was lost, you give it to a Russian. And not Kirill Kaprizov, no. A different name with a K. And not Kalesa, not Keegan either, although I wish. Basically, Joel Eriksson Ek has an incredible battle against the boards. He ends up winning it, kicks it to his feet, feeds it to Dmitry Kulikov, who comes in the slot all alone, and he buries it top shelf, winning the game against our boogeyman and still staying ahead of St. Louis when we really needed to. Finally, beating Nashville in their building. You can suck it, Predators fans. You can take, we beat you 3 times this season. Good luck getting past Calgary, because I don't think you're going to. You are not even in the playoffs. Oh my God, this felt so good. You can take that sweet 3-1 record over us. Go ahead. Go ahead. Because this win feels better than any of the ones you've had against us. This feels so damn good. And I wrote down here, the biggest win of the season by far. Without a doubt. I know there's been a bunch of them this season. A bunch of huge wins. Absolutely monumental wins. And they've often come in overtime. That 3 overtime stretch we had, what was it? Columbus, Vancouver, and Colorado. Those games were awesome. This game takes the cake. It's our final road game of the season, and we finish it in perfect style, in my opinion. Sure, it was overtime. It was dramatic. It was scary. But just look at the reaction on the bench when Kulikov scores it. And it was only with 2 seconds left in overtime. It was only with 2 seconds left in overtime. And the reaction on the bench from Evison, from Fiala, from Goudreau to Buke, look down the entire bench. You can see this win meant so much. And to get those 2 points is massive. Because what does that do? That moves our record to 51, 21, and 7. We have 109 points. We are still second in the Central. And we still have a game in hand against St. Louis. And guess who we play next? On Kirill's birthday, Tuesday, 8 Eastern, we start off our last 3 games of the season all at home. And we play the worst team in the league, the Arizona Coyotes. Please win that game, because I really don't want to get down from this high, because oh my God, that would suck to lose a game against the Coyotes on Kirill's birthday at home. Please, I don't care how you win it, just win it. Just make it easy. Even if you call up the Iowa roster and just say, hey, who wants in on this game? Just please. But I have a hell of a lot more faith in that game. I have a hell of a lot more faith. Not that I didn't have faith in this game, but man, what a win. What a exclamation mark for any playoff doubts. Because even with all of the injuries, even with Spurgeon going down, Zuccarello's not in the line. We won against Nashville without most of our main guys in the lineup. That's how huge this game was. We did not have Greenway or Foligno or Zuccarello or Spurgeon for most of the game. And yet, with all of that, this team still finds a way to win. Oh my God, this is the best Wild team in history. Let's just make sure it carries through into the playoffs. But I'll end it with that. That is it for this one. Thank you for watching. Please like this video if you did enjoy it. If you want to watch more of these videos, I have a whole plethora of them you can watch to recap the season. At least, not the full part, but from when I started recording these, back when the Wild lost to the Flames 5-1, and I was looking pessimistic and didn't know how to record these. Now, I'm not an expert, but I'm better than I was. And the Wild are better than they were at that point too. And of course, even if life gets in the way, because I know it did, even if it gets in the way, I will still make sure that these videos get out. I will still keep covering the Wild as far as they go. As far as they go, and I'm hoping it's farther, because this is so much fun. But with that being said, thank you for watching, and I will talk to you all later. Peace.